Hello, everybody. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. It's Wednesday, 5th of November, 2025. It's time for our spiritual light. And today we have the pleasure to receive our friend Julio Carvalho from New Jersey. And I think it's the first time Julio joined us here in the spiritual light. I hope we have more
Isso é
of his
espírito
time with us.
elevado, seu.
Yeah. Yeah.
To
So
join us.
today's topic it is afterlife, memory and communication. Honor those who have passed. So let's let's ladies first introduce themselves. So good evening, my dear Elsa.
Good evening, Stevan. Good evening, Julio. It's a great pleasure to be with you here for your first time debut. And good evening, everyone that are watching us. Please write your question or write your comments or make your suggestion that everything will be fine, everything will be good. It's wonderful when you can interchange ideas, qualifying even more our spiritual light. Thank you so much.
And you, Julio, welcome to the show.
Good evening, everyone, and those who are responsible for spiritual light. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I hope that we can attend to your expectations.
For sure, I bet we will. We will. So the others will join us along our discussion here today. So again, our topic it is afterlife, memory, communication, honoring those who have passed. Why we have choose this title today, this topic today? Because in many cultures, November begins with a sacred moment. For example, in Mexico, we have Los Dia de los Muertos. In Brazil, we have almost the same thing. And remembering our departed loved ones. Spiritism brings a deep clarity and comfort to this process. Always affirming, always ensuring that life does not end at death. It is simple, a transformation, a trip. So today's panel reflects on how Spiritism teachings help us understand the afterlife, the conditions of discarnate spirits, and how we may continue to connect and support those who have returned to the spiritual life. We will explore the loving ties that remain and how memory, prayer, and moral conduct strengthen these bonds. So, this is the introduction for our topic today. As Elsa already said, please, if you have any comments, if you have any questions, please put it in our comment box. We can read it here. We have our question here, but it's just to give a kind of direction. But when we have a questions from you, we stop everything to answer your question. Okay? So let's start with Julio. My friend, what happens to the spirit immediately after death?
Well, Stephen, that solely depends on how that individual has lived his or her life. For those who lived very attached to material pleasure, that moment of death becomes extremely painful. Reason being, it's because they don't want to let go of anything that they're attached to. On the other hand, for those who have lived a life of detachment to material things and pay attention to what matters most, which is their spiritual growth, that first initial moment is of a complete freedom, freedom from the wants of the flesh, freedom from anything that is a source of disturbance to their soul. So it really depends on how you have lived your life. This is the reason why the Spiritist philosophy enlightens us to live in a such way that we're constantly preparing for the afterlife, because the physical experience is actually our temporary existence, and the spiritual life is the eternal one. So while we're here, we attend to our material needs, but we should not make them the primary source of our pleasure or happiness. Reason being is because that will be a moment that we're going to be called to go to the afterlife, no matter who we are, how small or how large, how rich or how poor, how famous or infamous we are, we're all going to be called to that moment. And how we experience that moment solely depends on how we have lived that physical existence. We can liken the experience to someone who attends school, for example, the university. Someone goes to college and all they do is just fool around, they're getting bad grades, just partying a lot. When the moment comes for them to be done with their classes, they fear that moment because they know they have failed. But for those who have made an effort to be a best version of themselves by studying and learning and taking and getting good grades on their exams, that when the moment comes that they have to graduate, it's pure joy, it's pure happiness because they know they fulfilled their obligation. So the Spirit's book covers this material in extent when we learn from the highly evolved spirits that those who have attended to material needs, they will suffer very much, unfortunately, because they want to stay here and they can't. And those who have lived their physical life as if they were already ahead of themselves in their spiritual plane by their desires, by their needs, and most importantly, by being a better version of themselves, that moment is of pure joy.
Okay, okay. And but at the same time, we need to think it's something new. Let's put it in quotes for us. We just don't remember, but we gradually awakes the spirit, and the spirit will have the conscious of the current state. So, my dear Elsa, how this how this conscious happens to us, because I don't know, I can imagine for those who thinks we're gonna die, gonna sleep, waiting for the last judgment. Not criticism here for anything, just saying, can you imagine like those who believe in something, but then when they are awake, it is completely different. What's your inputs regarding it?
Steven, every time that we sleep is a training for death because we go to any places, our spirit, accordingly what we preparing ourselves during the day, and accordingly what we preparing ourselves during our existence. We can prepare to, when pass to afterlife, have this conscious that I did my best in order to spread everything good for everyone. That is the main point. Otherwise, our conscience will tell us, oh, Elsa, you did it wrong. You should do more next time, a better way, etc. We are our own judges. We have our own conscience in order to know what is the best for us to do. Because God is living in our conscience, full of the laws of the nature, everything, the divinity. We have it here in this tiny, tiny brain that we have that's not located the conscience in the brain, but it's the area of the perispirit. So the connection that we have, the life and when we die, born and die, living and die again, and die again, is something that we increase during existences a little bit better in every time because we learn how to do it in spiritual world, and we come here to put in practice what we already um, are held in our conscience, that is the living one of us, that is very spirit in spirit that we have in ourselves. We are composed of many layers, but the ones that Kardec truly and beautifully explained for everyone is the body, spirit, and perispirit. So according to Spiritism, we never die. We only change bodies. We only change time to time, come and go. Is the same um, road that everyone can go and can come, no matter rich, poor, different colors, technical, ethical lives. Everybody go to the same place, same way, not the same place. Because the ones go
Mhm.
with the better places already have the knowledge of how things happen, and the others to the lower places. But all of them are learning how to proceed next time, next existence. That we are here to learn, we are here to put in practice. But we will see when we die, we pass on after life. Our memory is still living, and we catch everything that we did in this existence, or the previous one, and there to be a big cake full of ingredients that we have to process, take our best taste that we can in order to come back in the next or future existence, reincarnation, that is a composing our life. Life is eternal. We are immortal beings. God created us to be happy, to evolve, to be a good spirit one day, that we are imperfect now. But for sure, everyone we will. It's
Yeah,
a
that's the only certainty we have, no? That's the only thing we know it's gonna happen. Um, Let me see if we have any comments here today. Oh, Miss Natalie Torbert. So it's great to have her here. It's a pleasure to have you here, Miss Natalie. So good. Dina Martins. So good. Um, and how and how I think the question is, how does the Spiritism explains the persistence of bonds between both worlds? And I like to kick off this discussion saying these bonds are never untied, because the question I ask you is, if someone who passed away, I believe you will still love that person, a, a husband, a wife, daughter, a friend. It's not because your friend, your husband, your daughter, your son passed away, you didn't delete that person from your mind and you don't love this person anymore. Since you don't love this person, since you you cannot stop loving that person even though he's not here, the same thing applies for those who are in the other side. It's not because they are not anymore incarnated, they stop loving you. And they always be with us, connected with us. And these connections We just don't have the physical touch, but we can connect it to a prayer, to thoughts, by your moral affinity. So, in other words, distance is not an obstacle here. What do you think, Maria Elsa?
I see this question or this thought in two ways, Stephen, actually, because we can say we bond with our kids here now, that some kids are very nasty for the parents, and parents says, oh, I did wrong with these spirits that are my kids now. Perhaps I killed them, or I robbed them, or I did bad behavior towards them. And the kids now is giving back. No one born to kill, or born to be rude, or born to do things against others. We born in order to put in practice love and charity in our existence. But the father, the mother, the parents died. And in the spiritual world, they still link with these kids, this incarnation, and the others, the previous incarnation, and the other incarnation. So the bonds, sometimes the link will be very weak and sometimes very strong. Strong means when I am incarnated here right now, I find people that I have very strong bonds. Probably I said no, probably these people or this person or the family are my family from the past. I feel this connection reincarnated. Imagine when we are in the spiritual world with the freedom of see the entire panorama of so many existences that we can say, oh, the ones are my spiritual family. And the bond for these people, this spiritual family, is very strong. And we can find them and see, we unconsciously, we see and we know that these people belongs to our spiritual family. And sometimes the other way that I see, we have better kids that really very nasty against parents. We listen comments from mothers, especially mothers, and the mother said, "Okay, I did wrong for this kid. I hurt this kid in the past, and now it's hurting me." And I said, "No, you are a very good lady, very good mother. You did your best to your kids, and you are the one that when the benefactors ask you if you, with charity in your heart, want to receive two spirits that are very nasty for more than millennia in the spiritual world, and you said yes, without having bonds with them, without having a accomplishment with them, without even having bonded in the past with them." And this mother looked at me and said to me, "But it is possible." I said, "Yes, it is possible. Of course. Law, cause and effect, yes, we know that. But it's possible also that um, we adopted a kid here that no one wants to adopt, but the kid is very nasty. It said, no, I will face this challenge and I will help this spirit to grow towards the light, to educate, to go to university. You try your best. Most of the time, we fail because these spirits, they are really beautiful body, beautiful smile, but they are nasty kids or spirits. And that's it, what's happening in the world. When I participate for 1 year in a meeting, a Zoom meeting, with more or less 350 mothers, 1 year, in order to know a little bit better certain parts, in order to help for the fraternal assistant to Spirit Center, I could see something that I never ever imagined that it happened here and now in this planet regarding mothers and kids. That is something that I never could imagine because we don't have bad things in our mind, so you don't imagine these kind of things happen. So these bones, that of course, these 300 mothers crying because their kids, what they are doing. And one says, I prefer to see my son dead instead the situation that he is now. Was her comment. Like very strong. And in spiritual world, probably when she returned and face the entire questions about what you did in your past life, she could say, I did my best. And the
Mhm.
benefactor said, yes, you did your best and you are free from this task again. That's it. Makes sense?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of sense. Makes sense for you, Julio.
Yes. Unfortunately, we have those kind of relationships. Very tough on the moms, but they're not victims. They have done
No,
something in order to be in that situation. So
no, no, no. You're not. We're not victims at all. No, we're co-creators. We
Not,
are.
not situation, not with the same kids. Yeah? They are not victims, we know. But in previous incarnation, perhaps what the other spirits. But for these spirits, when I say, ah, yes, I want to adopt these as my kids in order to help them. I have not to do with these kids, these spirits. But
Mm,
I, charitable heart, said yes. Yeah? It's happened.
yeah, yeah. Uh, so we said about what happened when you died, then how is this connection, or how we can keep this connection ongoing. And Julio, can we communicate with those departed?
you see, we have the illusion that we are our bodies instead of us thinking that we have a body.
Hmm.
And people sometimes they believe that because someone is not physically next to them, there is no way to communicate with them. But when we think of the way we communicate with people, whenever you walk into an elevator and there's like 20 people inside the elevator and you squeeze yourself in, you are physically very next to everybody else. Now, do you feel anything for these people just because you're physically next to them? Absolutely not. It's not physical proximity that makes us connect to one another. It's love that help
Hmm.
us to be connected with one another. So when someone dies, or in spiritist terms, when someone disincarnate, they leave the flesh, we did not love that person's body. We love the individual who was inside that body. And the bonds of love continue. Therefore, we can communicate with them. So our thoughts to them are like a phone call that we're sending to someone else. And we communicate through our thoughts. And at night, when we go to sleep, we release ourselves from our own bodies. And if we deserve, if we have the merit, we will communicate with them in the spiritual plane. They will come and see us, and we go there and see them. And at times, we spent the whole night communicating with one another. And on the following day, when we wake up, we just remember uh, very small pieces of that conversation. And people ask all the time, well, why is that? Well, that's because our brain was not designed to live a parallel life. If
Hmm.
you went to go to sleep and you remember the entire night, on the following day, when you wake up, you would not have the sensation of rest. And that would definitely drive you crazy. This is how our neurons get sick from not getting proper rest. So, this is why we forget. However, we have the certainty that this was a special night because we were with them. Now, Stephen, whenever we do this kind of talks, I'm always thinking not of the spiritist audience who could be watching us, but people who are completely new to this. So we have many books that discuss in depth this kind of material. And one of my favorite ones in regards to the topic for today, which is how our lives influence the departed and how the departed influence our lives. It's the book Between Heaven and Earth, written by the Spiritist Dr. Andre Luis through the hands of Francisco Xavier. So let me repeat the title again. It's called Between Heaven and Earth. So in this book, you have those scenarios of people who disincarnated, they die, and they come and meet with those who are left behind in the flesh. And so on the following day, when the person who is in the flesh, the person who is quote unquote alive, wake up, they don't fully remember the conversation, but they do remember that they, were with that person. They remember the person smiling. They remember certain parts of the conversation that gives them the reassurance that that meeting took place. So you see, communications, Stephen, from the great beyond, it's really a difficult thing for the spirits to do. For those who know Francisco Xavier, Emmanuel used to tell him, when it's your opportunity to come here and then I will be there in the physical flesh, you will see how challenging it is to send communications from here, because
Yeah.
the material flesh, it's such a big obstacle, not to mention our own doubts about if what is going on with us is true or not. So that definitely creates an impact on our ability to communicate with the spirits. So this is why communication with the spirits, it's very symbolic. I worked in the palliative care for 3 years, and these were individuals who received from their doctor 6 months of life. So whenever we got into the picture, we had a patient who had the certainty that they would die within 6 months. And then our job was to prepare that individual for the transition and also prepare the families for that. And so whenever the patient died and we were treating the family from the psychological point of view, how to deal with the separation, they would tell me that they had the weirdest dreams. This is how they explained, I had such a weird dream. I saw my mom walking the dog outside. That's what the dream was, and I could not understand the thing. Now, obviously, this person's mom was not walking the dog. This was her way to send a message: I'm doing okay because I enjoy doing this sort of thing. So the communication is very symbolic. So that requires us to be open to the difficulty of communication from the great beyond. So whenever we have these sort of dreams, we are very careful to not take literally what we are seeing, but rather interpret the symbolism. People at times they dream of car crashes or airplanes, that sort of thing, or breaking an arm, some sort of an accident. Now, that does not mean it's going to happen in the future. That's not a prophecy. It's a message telling you, be careful, drive slower, pay attention more when you're going down the stairs so you don't
Yeah.
break an arm, so you don't break a leg. This is how they're going to communicate with us. Just because it's our brain, even though it's going towards that path, it would still take time for us to evolve to be sufficiently connected to the spiritual plane in which we have no doubt of the communications coming from the spirits.
Great point. Great point. We need, as Chico Xavier said, the bell needs to ring from there to here, not the opposite. So this kind of allow me to remind that we have had many life, many incarnations and discarnations, and we are all brothers and sisters in a family. Can you imagine how big it is our family in the spiritual world? How many prayers we have from them to ourselves here, because for their perspective. We are the ones working now. We are the ones on duty. From their perspective, it is this, and they keep sending love, care, attention. That proves we are not and will be never alone. We are always connected. Like as I said at the beginning, in Los Dias de los Muertos, families goes to the cemetery to have a meal along with the grandparents who passed away. So many traditions. I bet that we do have more traditions, but I'm not aware of. And anyway, so let me see here. Do you have questions? Yeah, looks like we do have a question here.
Stephen, before you read
Mhm.
the question, you are referring to us having traditions to celebrate the dead. As a matter of fact, paleoanthropologists, these are scientists who study the evolution of the human beings here on Earth. And one of their ways to distinguish if we are primitive or more advanced species is if we are celebrating the dead. So
Mm,
the paleoanthropologists, they search if they can find cemeteries, literally, because if they do, that means our ancestors, they worship the dead. They buried, which means they found respect, which means we uh, evolved from primitive beings to more evolved beings just because of the worshiping of the dead. That's how a primitive that tradition is, because that's what partly what defines us as human beings.
perfect. Perfect point. I love it. Dear Elsa, you're quiet.
Listening and reading, the big question here now.
Yeah, we do
Sonia,
have this question.
yeah. I think it's the respect and the dignity that we have towards our families, our beloved ones, our ancestors, towards ourselves. We do unto others what we want others do unto you, unto us. So I, I myself, I don't be buried, I don't be cremated. It's another question that I prepare myself. I'm not to do this kind of things. But buried in cemeteries and graves and the beautiful graves that we have here in Walthamstow, I think the oldest cemetery that we have in north of London is really interesting. I'd like to walk there and see. Imagine the ones that are researching and the archaeologists and doing things and find this information. It brings to us that this understanding. I It's an honor to be worshipped and the honor to worship other
Mhm.
people that we'd like to send our prayers and they do really with dignity. Why? Why cremate and they put the ashes everywhere that they're not allowed to do? They have to do wisely. But it's something that we know that the person is still living, never die. But it's a ritual of passage that everyone should do in order really to accept that the beloved one departed. And the history show us, I don't know how it was the first cemetery founded in the archaeology times, but it's something that tell us that the man, care
Mhm.
about other people when buried. But because otherwise the animals could eat eh, our beloved one, recently dead, and they buried with stones or the kind of things. that you all the ways to bury people. It's nice to continue to do that when it's possible now. But my vision now is different.
Yeah.
Hi, Charlie. Wow,
Hey,
nice to
Charlie,
see
we
you.
missed you.
You made it. Wow, great.
You're on mute, my friend. We cannot listen to you.
Sorry for the delay. I'm really sorry.
No worries. So, Julio, we do have a question here from from Estonia. I listen now about bound and spirits to adopt and about nasty kids. Yes, it's happened when parents have problem relationships with children. But why, if it happens, opposite, that parents don't like kids and don't love the child?
First of all, two things. Let me say hello to Charles. First time we do something together. How are you, Charles?
Fine, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Nice meeting you. And once again, I'm very grateful to be invited, but I did not know the format of the meeting. So I did not know I was supposed to make comments on top of someone else's answer because you're inviting Elsa to make a comment on the question. So I apologize for that. So, in regards to the bonds and the trauma between parents and kids and their parents, what we have to realize Earth is nothing but a big school, a big theater. And we are incorporating different roles. Sometimes we come as parents, sometimes we come as kids, but we are all old spirits. We have lived many physical existences in the past. And let's be clear about that. Life is just one. The physical existences are many of them. And each physical existence that we come, we are supposed to sublimate our relationships with one another. So, once again, I refer to the book Between Heaven and Earth. These are individuals who are constantly involved in love triangles. And reason being is because, all of us are under three very powerful instincts: the instinct to rest, the instinct to eat, and the instinct to reproduce, sex. And that energy is extremely powerful. Reason being is because if it wasn't for sex, there would not be a continuation of the species. This is why it's such a strong instinct. And it overcomes the other two instincts. So because of this uncontrollable force in the stage that we find ourselves in, we get ourselves involved in many love triangles. So in that book, Between Heaven and Earth, you have 6 individuals who are constantly coming back in different reincarnations in different roles. So you have first a wife and a husband, and here comes a lover. The lover steals the wife from this husband, and now she is tied by physical attraction to the lover. And now here comes another lover, and this lover commits suicide because he was betrayed. And when we have this kind of relationships, we create not only biological ties if we have kids, but most importantly, spiritual ties. So now we are all responsible for the people that we have emotionally harmed. And they come back. And they come back as kids, they come back as parents. And the type of relationship we have with them, it's an indication of what kind of relationship we had with them in the past. So whenever you have a peaceful and friendly, loving relationship with your child, everything was resolved in a previous reincarnation. But when your child is extremely difficult, or the parent is extremely difficult, one of those two individuals was responsible for that situation. So in the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 28, this is the collection of prayers. There is a prayer that it's fantastic, and that talks about family ties and enemies. And it tells us that before we think of someone else as being our enemy, we need to ask ourselves, what is it that I have done in the past that caused the current situation? Reason being, it's because, my friend Stevan, when we find ourselves responsible for something that we have done, then immediately we also find the obligation to repair, to make amends to that individual. If we believe that we are victims of someone else, we are expecting that person to fix the relationship. And whenever we expect others to fix themselves in order to improve our lives, all we're doing, we're just prolonging our pain. So if you're the parent of the situation and you have a difficult kid, just ask yourself, what have I done in order to be in this situation? And I was not placed in this situation to fail. I was placed in this situation to succeed. And what are you going to do? You're not going to prepare that kid to be yours, because the kid is not yours. All of us belong to God, and we are temporarily next to one another. We are temporarily in these relationships. So as a parent, you're going to prepare them for life. You will give them the skills for them to succeed emotionally, professionally, financially, spiritually. And after you have done everything you could and they failed, that's their problem, not yours. You have fulfilled your obligation. And as a child, if you notice that your parents are disturbed, you have parents who are addicted to alcohol, drugs, that sort of thing, think of it that, your body might be small, you might be younger in age, but as a matter of fact, you can be older spiritually than that other person. And whenever we have more knowledge, we are responsible for those who have less knowledge. So you teach them, you guide them, you counsel them. But once again, we all have free will, and people will do whatever they want to do. But the important thing is, if we are aware of our mission, which is to be a better version of ourselves, we'll make the effort to do our best, if we are a kid or if we are the parent.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Julio. I hope. Yeah, Elsa. Yeah, please go ahead.
No, I said very clear.
Yeah,
Achieve
it was
later,
astonishing. Yeah, very good.
Achieve people that are not spiritistic and understand it wisely. Good. Very nice.
And what
Yeah.
happens, Elsa, by not understanding Spiritism and they find themselves in a situation like this, they say, you know what, I don't want to deal with this kid, or I don't want to deal with this mom or this dad. And they postpone the opportunity to make amends. And whenever we postpone an opportunity to make amends, it's just like a credit card debt. The more time it takes you to pay, the larger the interest rate compounds to the original amount that you owe, and now you owe more. So if we are in the situation right now, it's in our advantage. It's on our best interest to make amends now and not later.
Okay, Charles, my friend. I have a question for you.
Let's go.
And do spirits visit us or participate, like in today's life, like in meetings at home, after they passing away?
It's also a good question. I mean, everything is about the change of paradigm, isn't it? We are an incarnated soul. Huh? We are not just a bunch of cells governed by random biochemical reactions. Huh? So, from this spiritualist paradigm, of course, it changes completely the point of view on these questions. Huh? And one thing that the spiritist body of knowledge teaches us is there are spirits everywhere. Incarnated spirits like us, but also spirits which are not incarnated, discarnated spirits. And their influence on us is it's written permanent, and even sometimes so strong as it's as per the Spirit's book that they may lead us in some cases, depending on the use of our free will. And of course, from this, we have all these consequences that Giulio just talked about, and Elsa as well, is the relationship are continuing beyond the grave for those who left before us, for both when both left this physical life, and so on along the reincarnations. So yes, definitively. I mean, the people who were bound to us in many senses, but in a good sense, the beloved ones, but also the people who may be bound to us, may have some links to us, maybe do because we harm them in somehow, or they are not so happy with us. Yes, they can visit us, and they do visit us quite frequently, much more than what we can think. So this is a completely new way to see the things, compared with the materialist paradigm induced by the spiritist body of knowledge. So it's a kind of a continuity, and it's somehow the opposite. What we think is the essential life is the incarnated one becomes a secondary one seen from the spiritual life, because the essential life is in the spiritual world, and the incarnations is only temporary. All what is material here is the money, belongings, house, car, whatever, even our physical body. We don't take a single atom, a single penny with us the day we go back to the spiritual world. So this, of course, changes a lot the point of view, and Julia was very wise in explaining us that we have really to make all the efforts we can in order to reconciliate and to resolve the problems and to repair the harms we may have caused, and so on, as soon as possible, because we will not escape from them. There is no way to escape. So better to, okay, let's go make the efforts and fix it as soon as we can.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone to compliment or? Okay. So, in order to wrap up, because we are 90 minutes away, as I said at the beginning, we have people who light a candle for those who passed away. Some people go to the cemetery to have a dinner with those ones. Some just do a prayer. This is a question for three of you. It's not a specific question for a person. I want you to hear the comments for those three. How does remembering the death benefit? I will do again. How does remember the death benefit the living? So, what's the best way to remember and honor those who return to the spiritual life? Let's start with our guest, Julio.
Before we get to that question, I'd like to pick back on what Charles said about the materialist paradigm. I'm constantly listening to physicists because, they try to study the element particles and see what we're all made of. And there's one of them called Michio Kaku. He's a nuclear physicist in New York City. And then he talks about his book, The Science of the Future. And look what he said. He said that in the future, we will no longer build machines in order to travel to different planets, because now we build machines and we cannot even transport human beings. And it takes 6 months just to transport a satellite to the nearest planet, Mars. So he said, in the future, we're going to download our consciousness into a computer, and then we're going to shoot our consciousness at the speed of light to Mars, and it takes 60 minutes to get there at the speed of light. And there at Mars, get this, my friends, we're going to have an avatar that can accept our consciousness, and then our consciousness will express itself in Mars with the avatar of our choice. Now, isn't that what we have here? Our body is nothing but an avatar. Now, it's such an excellent avatar that gives us the illusion that we are the avatar. So whenever we see someone's avatar dying and through the process of and goes through the process of decomposition, and I love this word, things that were composed are now being decomposed to be reused by nature. We think that the person is gone, but the person is not gone. It's the avatar that broke down. Another knowledge to this, if you use your car, your regular vehicle, it gets to a point that that car is no longer usable. Now here in the US, you take that car to a junkyard in order for the parts to be recycled. You don't stay inside the car in the junkyard, you go back home. So those who we love, they go back home to our spiritual home. So our memories of them impacts them very greatly. They are happy because they know they are being remembered. And I worked in jail here in the US for 12 years. And one thing I could notice in prisoners' behavior, those who receive visits from relatives from outside, they felt encouraged to change themselves because they looked at these people and said, you know what, they're waiting for me. I want to get better because I have something to look for. And there were inmates who never received any visits. In these people's mind, what was the point of change if no one was going to notice? So when we pray for those who have departed and we remember them, they feel a need to change, especially those relatives who did very poorly while in the school of earth. They failed all the grades, they did terrible things. Maybe they committed suicide. How can my prayer, how can my memory affect them? Well, it can affect them in a very positive way. They feel a need to change because they know there are people who love them, who are thinking of them. So there is a reason for them why they need to change. And those who are doing well, those who actually pass all the grades in the school of earth, when they see themselves on the other side and they can see and feel that we are remembering them, what is the best way to honor them? Well, to live by their guidance. Divaldo Franco, our great friend from all of us, he is on the spiritual plane. What's the best way to honor that man? Well, make an effort to leave the message, to incorporate the teachings that he so much loved and transpired to all of us. If I admire a scientist, Carl Sagan, how can I honor the existence of Carl Sagan? Well, by dedicating myself to the work of science, to the pursuit of truth. So we honor those who have gone before us by fulfilling, by completing, by continuing their mission.
Perfect. Perfect. Charles.
Yeah, maybe I would just add that this process of the future described by the physicist, I don't remember the name, Giulio, I'm sorry.
Crazy name, Michio Kaku.
So is obsolete already because the spirits and the thoughts do not even need 16 minutes and much less 6 months to go from here to March. They can go instantaneously or maybe almost instantaneously. So this shows that, of course, we are in a material world. We live incarnated in a material body. We have to take care of it. We have to feed it. We have to, and so on. Huh? But in the spiritual world, these things are even much more advanced. And when we talk about the plurality of inhabited worlds and so on, it's not only the solar system, it goes much beyond. And things that even March is very difficult to reach. Imagine a different stellar system from the solar system. But for the spirits, it's just a jump. The speed of the thought, you are there. And this is also very important to consider in the way we shall remember the one who passed away before us, because these thoughts, the transmission of thoughts, is really perfect. When we think about someone in particular, the addressing is also immediate. This person will feel immediately that we incarnated or not incarnated, will have a reaction coming back of this thought. So this technology from the beyond, from the spiritual world, is much more advanced than what you can think, and we have even sometimes difficulty to conceive how this can work, relieving from all these limitations from our material world, one of them being the speed of light. But it is a reality. So I fully share Julius' view. Yes, the best way to honor the one who passed away before us is to have good thoughts about us, concerning them, to follow their example, to express feelings of gratitude, and so on, which is simply called love. And that is the nicest way to honor them. And even some people of our enemies who died, we can also honor them by saying, asking for forgiveness, sending good thoughts, praying for them. There is so many we can do in almost all the cases. And it's really something new. The prayer, which was somehow theoretical, gets now, with the Spiritist body of knowledge, much more practical, much more real.
Perfect. Perfect. Very clear, both messages. And you, my dear Elsa, to wrap up.
I said I agree with Julio and Charles, so we are in the same. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank
Yeah,
you very much.
very good comments. Thank you, Julio. Thank you, Charles. So
My pleasure.
I don't see any other questions here.
Comment,
So
right?
Rita de Cassia here agrees with you, Julio. So good point. That's good. Yeah. Also, she made a comment here. Sometimes I dream with someone that has already died, but the meeting is very fast. Sometimes it takes a little longer. Well, my dear, yes, we do have these dreams. You can say is a true meeting, but when we are sleeping, we don't have conscious about time. No.
You know,
Oh,
Stephen, I think that the Elsa and our friend Charles, we make an effort to be good communicators, but it's impossible to be a magician. And a magician is to cover all different aspects of the subject in 50 minutes. It's impossible. I mean,
yeah.
that's very common, not the exception, what Rita just mentioned, that she dreams about someone who passed away, but I mean, the person passed away, but she hasn't dreamed about the person. What happened? You know, the book Anosolar gives a very good description of why someone who died might not come right away to us. If you remember, Andre Luis spent 7 years in the Umbral after he went to Nosolar colony because he humbled himself enough to actually deserve the help. Because before that, he only be a source of disturbance in Nosolar. He realized that he could work in order to merit a visit with his family, because the first thing that he wanted to do was to see his wife and his kids. And there's
Mhm.
nothing more authentic about that. A father who wants to see his kids and a husband who wants to see his wife. But what happened to him? They denied his request. He got a big no. You're not going to go see anyone. So he dedicated himself to work, and he worked. After 5 years of working, so a total of almost 13 years after being the spiritual plane, he finally deserved the visit to see his wife. Now, the interesting part is when he went to see his wife, what was his reaction? His wife was remarried. When he met the other guy, he immediately became infuriated. And so at that moment, he became infuriated. And I love this part because the director made a great um, scene in order to describe what was going on with him emotionally. Because when he was enraged with jealousy that his wife was with someone else, he found himself in the umbral again. And he realized, oh my God, these are the emotions that gets me to hell. This is very powerful. These are the emotions that gets me to hell. So he immediately realized that he couldn't feel all this jealousy and enraged because his wife was with another man. So then he composed himself, he calmed himself down, and then instead of being enraged, he actually went back to his wife's house. And the current husband was actually sick, so he gave him the passes. He magnetized the water, and then when he went back to Nosolar, he was received no longer as a patient of Nosolar, but as a citizen of Nosolar. And why is that? Well, that's because he was able to overcome himself. That is the real triumph, not overcoming other people, but overcoming himself. And his wife, current husband, actually said, "Oh my God, I had a dream. Here we go, the dream with the dead people. This angel came to me and helped me." So he is calling his wife, ex-husband, and the dead guy an angel who came to help him. So what's the big lesson to take here? Now, when the highly evolved spirits denied André Louis' request to see his family, they were not being mean. They knew that he was not prepared to see his family. Because if he actually met his wife at that moment, only 7 years being disincarnated and full of attachment to his family, he will be a spiritual obsessor to his family. So for those of us who are listening to us, if your relative, if your loved one has departed and you have not yet had any dreams, this could be one of the reasons. They're just not ready yet. It would not be healthy or healthy for your loved one to actually have this meeting. But still, we can send our vibrations of love for them to get better as soon as possible.
Wonderful.
Ivan, maybe
Yes.
just a quick answer to Ulrich Kleinhempel. He's asking whether telepathy or transmission of thought goes at speed of light. No, it goes much quicker than speed of light. It is instantaneous, and that is exactly the point. All what is material is limited by speed of light, but all what is spiritual does not suffer at all from this limitation.
Wonderful. And with that, we answered all the questions here. So let me share my screen with our announcements. Let me put it here for you guys. Okay. So okay, so next week we will have our friend Marcia Trajano with us, and the topic is mourning, grief, and hope, healing through spirit's consolation. So 9 p.m. 9 p.m. London time on the 12th of November. Okay, so also every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. London time, we do have the Mediums book study with Charles, Munir, and Guilherme. So everybody's welcome to join. Please keep reading Spiritist Magazine. It's free of charge. Just access this website. You can download the magazine and you can read it. So for more informations about the Spiritist Centers in London, please go to www.buss.org.uk. If you want more details about the Spirit Centers in Ireland, go to www.isf.ie, and in France, go to www.lmsf.org. So in those three websites, you may find probably a Spirit Center close to you and willing to helping you if you need it. Okay? Keep listening, Cardiac Radio. Thank you, Cardiac Radio, for the opportunity to be here, having wonderful guests like Julio today. So thank you so much. And these are the announcements for today. I want to say thank you, Julio. Thank you for your time. I know it's probably now 5 o'clock p.m. for you, so you're still in the middle of your day. While you're here, me and Charles and Elsa are getting ready to go to bed. So thank you all. Thank you very much for your time. And I will see you next Wednesday.
For
Okay?
sure. Mhm.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me.
Bye-bye.
Julio, just
God bless.
wait a little bit. Okay? Thank you.